Are financial advisors overpriced? Or are $120 a year online tools oversold? Let's put it to the test in today's video. I am a certified financial planner, an enrolled agent for the IRS. I founded a wealth management firm, and I even teach personal finance at the University of Tennessee. So I'm uniquely qualified to do a live case study with you. You get the raw reaction as I put in a retirement case study into ChatGPT to show you the highs, the lows, and what it does really well and where a human may come in and be a better touch. Before I dive into that, I wanted to share this story with you, and it is, in my entire career, this is the saddest case that I have ever come across. And I share it for a few reasons. One, to warn you, but two, to also highlight the intangible benefits of a financial advisor, right? Because I had a commenter on one of my videos that said, of course, just pay you $10,000 a year and you'll tell me how much I can spend. No, thank you. I'll use Bolden for $120 a year. If that's all you're getting from your advisor is a calculation, then yeah, just pay the $120 at Bolden. There's so much more that an advisor does in this relationship. Let me just tell the story, and we'll get into the details, why I think an advisor is valuable and why even I pay for a financial advisor. This couple came to me, and the husband was 67, retired pharmacist. The wife was 66, still working as a school teacher. And they came to me in tears, basically starting over financially. And as I got to hear more about their story, it was truly heartbreaking. You hear about these stories all the time, but you rarely meet the other people on the other side of the story. Well, in their case, the husband had always managed the money in the marriage. And he had started to slip cognitively, and how much they were aware of that, I'm unsure, versus how much of it was the wife just not being involved in the money and trusting the husband to manage the things. But they got convinced to put money into a cryptocurrency investment, which was a total scam. Okay, it was called Yobit, Y-O-B-I-T. This is the part where I'm warning you. There are these scammers out there. Financial elder abuse is a real thing. Cognitive decline, unfortunately, is a real thing. And I want you to be aware of these potential dangers and risks so that you don't fall victim to them. And once the scammers knew that they had this pharmacist on the hook, when President Trump announced the tariffs earlier this year, they reached back out and said, hey, because of these tariffs, you have to put more money into this cryptocurrency. And he didn't have any more money because he had already put his entire life savings into it. And so what he did was got his wife to agree on mortgaging the home. And so they put money they didn't have into this investment. And when they realized that they were not getting any of that money back, is when I came into the picture, right? So can you imagine working your entire career to have all of your life savings wiped out in just a small moment of time? And it is the saddest thing that I have ever seen. And really, there's not much we can do for recovery, right? Because it's not a security. Like, they can report the fraud to the SEC, to FINRA, their local state attorney general, but there's really not much hope of recovery. And so when I think of that, the most heartbreaking thing about it is that it was 100% preventable. The fact that they did not have a financial advisor, they did not have a professional fiduciary raising the flag of concern saying, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I don't recommend this investment. Or even having an established trusted contact beforehand to maybe reach out to a child of whoever the clients would have named as a trusted contact in the event that they are experiencing, some incapacitation or disability or cognitive decline, where I could say, Mr. or Mrs. Trusted Contact of client, I'm concerned about the mental well-being and financial well-being of your friend, parent, peer, whoever, right? Whoever they would have named as trusted contact, and say, look, at the end of the day, it's your money and you get to do whatever you want to do with your money. But having a professional fiduciary, like, even if you were paying $10,000 a year to that advisor, that fiduciary, it literally saved you from depleting your entire life savings, right? And that is just one example of the intangible help of an advisor, right? The relationship and how important that is when you get to know someone over a long period of time, where you get to see often the financial advisor may be the first line of defense when it comes to cognitive decline and impaired decisions, right? And being able to raise that flag to the trusted contact can help save thousands of dollars in scams and financial elder abuse, right? So how much is that worth? Having a relationship with someone who knows you is going to help you be organized and accountable to good long-term decisions. Like, I'm not even mad that the person who commented on my channel said this, right? And because for some people, that is the right thing, if save the money, if you can do it yourself, you can be low cost, globally diversified, live within your means, save the difference, be patient with compound growth. You can do all those things, and then yeah, why pay an advisor? But as you start to accumulate wealth, complexity enters into your life. You want to retire, step away from work with confidence, and you want to navigate taxes and not just minimizing them today, but over your lifetime. And guess what? You're also worried about the cost of healthcare. And how does that fit into your tax plan and your income plan? And especially if you want to retire early before Medicare at age 65, right? There's so much more complex, or even just, not as simple as how much can you spend, but like, what are you optimizing for? And someone to ask those questions to help you get clear about why money is important to you and whether you would front load your retirement expenses while you have health to enjoy them, or whether you're scared of running out and want to backload retirement expenses so that you can cover your long-term care and legacy goals, right? So there's so much that goes into this. The human validation, will that ever be replaced by AI or online tools? I don't know, but there will always be DIYers, like the pharmacist and the teacher. But was being a DIYer best for them? Well, for them, it clearly wasn't. For some people, they could probably go their whole life as a DIYer and not run into something tragic. Whenever it comes to a transaction of any type, the fee is just one side of the equation. You also have to acknowledge the value side of the equation. Like, what are you getting for the fee that you are paying, right? And I think too many of us are so easy to live in the fee sphere that we're totally neglecting the value. I'm all for saving money where you can save money, dialing back what's not important to you so you can dial up what is important to you and have more time, money, energy, and health for whatever those things are. But I'm confident. I mean, I've seen time and time again where even though even though there's a fee associated with working with me, I have seen cases where people would be much better off paying my fee than navigating it themselves. So, I've seen here are a few other things I've seen. I've seen somebody who had money in a Roth IRA for 30 years and called it their worst investment. They thought the Roth IRA was the investment. They didn't realize that they had just put cash into the Roth IRA and never invested it, right? Yeah, an advisor is really valuable in that situation. I have another situation. 2016, the client got out of the market because of political concerns. Well, the market went up, and then they felt like they made the wrong decision, so they didn't want to buy high into the market. Well, the market continued to go up, 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 up. Until 2020, it crashed, and they did get back in, but it was still much higher than when the market was in 2016. And the compound effect of that, it cost this particular individual about $1 million, right? And so what is the value of an advisor if they can help prevent some of these mistakes? And it really comes down to behavioral finance. And I believe that there is no perfectly rational, homo economicus that, like, we are all humans susceptible to behavioral biases. But I believe there are really good tools that can help you if you are homo economicus, 100% rational. The reality is we have these emotional tendencies, and a lot of this comes from how we're wired. When you think of the psychology of money, you have to think of just humans and how we've evolved over time. There's so many different things that influence our psychology around money. It's super interesting. All right. Now, without further ado, let's dive into ChatGPT. Let's look at this. Let's see how good ChatGPT actually is, where it shines, where it may fall short. So if we put in the case study, right, we're looking at John 62, Mary 60. They have $1.4 million in retirement, paid off home, no debt. So we're telling Chat who we are. And then we're telling Chat what we're trying to optimize for, or what we want to know. And in this case, it's when to take Social Security, whether to convert IRA to Roth, and how much to safely spend. And then, of course, everybody wants to minimize taxes. Oh, so when should they take Social Security? This depends. Already, I like that answer. That is a good financial planning answer. So many times, the answer is it depends. And let's see how they break this down. Life expectancy, which we told it was age 90, need for income, other assets, tax considerations. I'm letting you know, I'm glad that it's letting you know that there are these other considerations, okay? This is true. If you take it as early as age 62, you do get a 30% reduction if your full retirement age was age 67. And for each year past age 67, you do get an 8% increase, right? So this is good general education. So from a general education standpoint, I think this is doing really, really well. What is it missing? Maybe some of the context of what are their goals? You know, how does this integrate with your tax plan and Roth conversions and minimizing the lifetime taxes, not just today, but in the future? All right, so next question. We have 1 million in pre-tax IRAs, 400,000 in taxable brokerage accounts. Should we convert some IRA money to Roth before RMDs kick in? It jumps off right away and says yes. It doesn't even say, well, let's think about it. So as of right now, like obviously you're years away from RMDs, but your first RMD is about 4% of your portfolio balance. So 40,000 on a million sounds about right. But that's why they're saying and growing. So depending on what the balance is, then we'll definitely change that. Yeah, so even this isn't giving you an exact number, but it's giving you a ballpark. So again, general education, I think this is good, but let's try and push it. How much can we safely spend in retirement? So this is based off Bill Bagan's research, and that is true. That is the safe withdrawal rate, you know, but this is not like, well, how much does the client want to spend? How much do they need to spend to maintain their lifestyle? And if they're spending this money, can they really be doing Roth conversions at the same time? You know, that's all the nuance of putting all of that together in context of each other than just making a siloed decision. Okay, so let's see option number 2, dynamic bridge to Social Security strategy. So spend more early while delaying, then reduce withdrawals once guaranteed income kicks in. All right, so this is a strategy. Option number 3, customized Monte Carlo based plan. So you can use a retirement planning tool. So now chat is recommending Right Capital, which is one planners use. I actually don't know New Retirement or Prolana, and I know a lot of retirement tools. I'm so curious why they chose these. Is saying this: you can safely spend $80,000 to $90,000 a year from now until 70, then reduce to $50,000, $60,000 a year after that once Social Security kicks in. Okay, so I'm just curious. Ask yourself, how confident do you feel in this moment of the video following this advice? That may be the right answer, but do you feel confident that that's the right answer? Taking into account my Social Security timing, Roth conversions, sustainable draws, please help me map these together in one strategy that maximizes my lifetime income, right? Because what we care about at the end of the day is our after-tax spendable dollar, and minimizes my lifetime taxes. So it gives us the year and John's age, and now tells us how to maximize the spending. Delayed Social Security, told us to convert $230,000 to Roth every year. So that essentially depletes the IRA, right? And so while you're doing that, you're paying $35,000 a year in taxes while spending another $85,000. So you're really spending down the brokerage account. This is so fascinating. So when you do the Roth conversion, you have the 5-year timer. So where the money is coming from in these years is super interesting. Okay, here's one thing I don't like about this, though. This is a very aggressive Roth conversion strategy. If you want some tax diversification, I would never convert 100% to Roth, because then you're leaving some money on the table, right? So in these years here where they're not doing any Roth conversion, and by the way, they've already spent down their taxable account, you get the standard deduction. You could pull money out of the IRA and never pay taxes on that. So you don't want to deplete your entire IRA to lose the opportunity to get some money out tax-free through the tax deduction. Also, if we think long-term and like long-term care, guess what? Your IRA is a great place to pay for long-term care, because the money you pull out from your IRA is going to be taxable as ordinary income, but the money you spend on long-term care from that distribution is going to be able to be offset as an itemized deduction, right? Even though typically it's hard with that that medical itemized deduction of 7.5% of your AGI. When you're in a long-term care facility, you have high expenses, and it's really easy to have medical expenses above 7.5% of your AGI. So I'm not a huge fan of depleting the IRA, especially if you're charitably minded and you want to pay QCDs or qualified charitable distributions from your IRA to the charity. That completely avoids taxation. It's the most tax efficient way to give. So even like this, where we said, okay, chat, optimize it, maximize our lifetime income, minimize our lifetime taxes. And even in this scenario, I don't think this is ideal. So you tell me, are advisors overpriced, or is technology oversold? Or is there a happy medium of those two, right? I would love to read your opinions in the comments below. And if you would like human validation on your unique financial situation, click the link in the description, set up your accounts on Elements, and book a time with me. I will help you prioritize what you're optimizing for and what are helpful next steps for you to maximize your financial well-being. Stay subscribed for the next video. Have a great one.